This is one of the craziest plugins I've ever used.
He has a special technique.
This is JJ Burred. He's a much better piano player than me, and he's done quite a lot of research and presented various papers on musical topics. And in his spare time, he writes and publishes software. About a month ago, I had a great conversation with JJ because he sent over a copy of Factorsynth, and after messing around with it for a couple of days, I was eager to ask him about some tips on using it and maybe also put a bug in his ear for some future upgrades. Factorsynth is pretty different from anything else I've come across on the market. It essentially uses algorithms to divide up a sound sample into a number of separate files, each one with a different sonic signature. You can then recombine these and end up with something completely different and glitchy and weird, and sometimes really fantastic. First off, there are so many ways you could use this plugin that one video is absolutely not enough to do it justice. And the big issue right now is that there are not many videos available to really explore these possibilities. So I'm going to try to at least give you an idea of a few ways that you could use this. First though, let's go over the basics. Essentially, you can drag and drop two waveforms into Factorsynth here, at the main and Xsyn boxes here. Factorsynth then uses stem separating algorithms to find things like transients and provide a number of different spectral patterns. This is the same type of software that is used to separate out things like vocals and drums from a mix, except that it is not the purpose behind Factorsynth. Factorsynth is more like a palette creator. It's like if you were to put Van Gogh's Starry Night into a piece of software that could analyze the colors and shapes used, and then use that to create your own painting. Factorsynth kind of does that with the EQ band, and you can hear how it works if I just turn on and off each of the different bands that it created with this sound. You can use the random buttons here and just play around until you get something interesting. Or you can listen to each item and then paint back the sound to your liking. You can also adjust the volumes and panning of each stem. The Xsyn layer goes one step further and allows you to combine the spectral palettes of two different waveforms. When you are done, you can save your session, which I recommend. In fact, save a lot, because you never know when you're going to hit happy accident territory here. Next, you can adjust the algorithm and resolution of the two waveforms here. You can adjust the mix, the wet-dry here, and finally, you can export the full sound here or bounce every single spectral stem here. These last two are super useful, and you will find yourself using the export feature quite a bit. There's a lot more you can do, but I don't want to turn this into a 20-minute video. So let's talk about some use cases. I've got quite a few. This one is pretty easy. Load up a drum loop on the main channel and just about anything else on the Xsyn channel. Then turn the dry/wet down quite a bit, but use the changes that Factorsynth gives you to create a difference between, say, a chorus and a verse drum beat. That can sound like this. Kind of in line with the drum enhancer technique is the find your glitch technique. What you want to do with this one is to activate the grid on your waveform. That is the little snap button here, which lets you snap to the grid. Now, instead of using the entire waveform, make sure the loop setting is on and then adjust the playback location of the loop to get a short glitchy sound, or something that might enhance a particular part of your song. Factorsynth is great for creating all kinds of separate WAV files. You can then put these on something like Ableton Push or similar, where you can trigger them separately. Pads actually work really well with Factorsynth. Here are a couple of examples of what you can do.
But if the price were high enough.
Oh, listen, baby, it'll take more than a couple of hopped up gunsels with itchy fingers to scare me off.
If you get a particular sound that you like, you can set up Factorsynth to use that sound as a sample across the key range. Here's an example of that. First, I loaded up 2 waveforms and then did some pretty simple painting to get a basic sonic footprint. That actually would have been pretty cool to use in a horror movie, but we're going to shape it further. The second step is a bit of EQ. And the third step is to add a gate. The gate makes it pretty interesting, but we want to glitch it up even more, so let's add Arturia's Coldfire. Now that sounds edgy. Add in some drums and you've got this. I had a great time talking with JJ, and we discussed a few potential feature upgrades that he is considering. One feature upgrade that I suggested is to be able to use Factorsynth to be able to save the WAV file with the volume and wet controls added. Currently, you can only save the mix fully wet. This would be great for doing an A and B type mix where you can switch from, say, a mostly dry drum mix to a fully wet, glitched out mix from verse to chorus. You can do this currently by just recording different mixes into your DAW, but having a one-button option to do this would be a huge time saver. You can check out Factorsynth at the link below, and if you like any of the upgrades discussed, or have a few of your own, leave them in the comments because I'm sure JJ would appreciate the feedback. Keep making great music, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the other side of the mountain.